It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome, and happy Friday. He's Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. As we begin the last hours of Nikki Haley's political career, Gary, how are you?
We're doomed.
We are doomed.
Yeah, after the AT&T cell phone outage yesterday, we're doomed.
Well,
a
code error. They say it was a code error.
Oh, I don't care about that. I care about the response of the public to it, how helpless they were.
Yeah, without a phone?
With a couple of hours without a cell phone.
Yeah.
I had to instruct. I had to bring Evelyn into the car hospital yesterday. Evelyn just got a checkup. Evelyn is my 21-year-old vehicle with 247,000 miles on.
You name your vehicles. They asked me at the dealership the other day when I bought my new truck, what do you want to name it? I said, truck.
Did they really?
Yeah.
I think that's how it happened to me. Do you have a name for it? And I went, this is when I bought the 2017 vehicle. Gosh, that's almost 7 years ago. And I call it my new vehicle.
Yeah.
But I remember saying, I don't know, George.
Mm-hmm.
They go, well, if you got George, well, what's the old vehicle's name? And I went, Evelyn. Now, I understand. There was nothing in my mind where I said, okay, I'm going to be an ageist sexist and call my old vehicle a woman's name and the new vehicle a man's name. I want to make that clear.
Well, it's always a she when guys are working on the vehicles.
True.
It's, hey, start her up. Hey, she's running pretty lean.
Yeah, you're right. Women have dominated auto mechanics lingo for the longest time.
I think it goes back to our time as mariners. I think it was about, that,
Well, my time.
She's a lean boat, Captain.
Well, my time. I don't know about your time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my name says it all, McNamara.
Mm-hmm.
You know what McNamara means? Hound of the sea.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what Harley means? True story. Really loud motorcycle.
But
I didn't know it.
There I am in the car dealership yesterday, and surrounded by AT&T people, still trying to get it to work. And I'm like, do you know how to work phone Wi-Fi? Most of them had no idea what I was talking about.
Yeah, Wi-Fi calling?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Most had no idea. It's like, wow, okay, yeah, you can
Yeah,
call.
I didn't know anybody that had a problem, although their problem it wasn't just a few hours. Their problem started, it was around 8:30 in the morning and lasted until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There were 2 or 3 people. It was like, geez, you would think they could fix it faster in today's world. But even then, a 7 or 8 hour problem is still, that's, listen, when we were kids, we didn't have your fancy, you had to stand next to a wall. And if you were lucky, you could get one of those. Remember the long cords? The cord that you plugged into the wall, not the cord between the phone receiver and the actual phone itself, but the long cord where you could take it down the hall a little bit. And that was, oh, man, these people must have it. I bet they live in a second-story home. There must be stairs somewhere around here because these people are rich.
Oh, I remember when and this had to be, I'm going to guess, the mid to late 90s.
Yeah.
When they came out, this is the super range home phone. Now, that was
the
wireless.
Cordless,
the wireless.
Yeah,
this
the cordless
one,
phone. Yeah.
This one can go 1,000 feet.
Uh-huh.
And there I am testing it. When I got it, it's like, okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can
Yeah.
you hear me now? About 700 feet, 800 feet.
Yeah.
And I guess, back then it was it's still from a kid. I had a fascination with walkie-talkies.
Mm-hmm.
We had a walkie-talkie. I thought it was the greatest invention ever.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I don't think anybody needs to sell walkie-talkies these days, do they?
They actually sell a lot of them.
Do they really?
Yeah, to people who are if you camp or if you're hiking
Yeah, I'm talking
and
kids,
trailing. Uh, you mean for just strictly entertainment purposes?
Well, yeah, when I was a kid, I wanted a walkie-talkie. It wasn't
Yeah,
for any
yeah.
purpose
Well,
except,
they were actually designed for adults, but yeah,
yeah. I'm talking as a kid walkie-talkie. I know, I understand there are practical uses still for it.
yeah.
For adults
No, they're
in many
big
situations.
sellers, and the ones today have an incredible range. They have an incredible range.
What do they go now? I remember the maximum I think I saw one time was a mile or 2 miles. And that was when I was a kid.
I don't know what the maximum is, but I mean it's unbelievable compared to what you basically if you went around the corner of the house as a kid, if you went and the signal had to go through a brick, it wasn't the real walkie-talkies. It wasn't the kind that our fathers and grandfathers depended on in war, but still, you would think you could get it right.
Well, the funny thing is, I was when I woke up to that, and then when I got to the dealership, and I'm helping all these people, and I'm thinking to myself, and I will admit, it was after I saw the headline yesterday, and it was an article about how modern art today, that everything they called it doomist?
Yeah.
That what we basically have, artists, you go see all the modern art today, it's all about doom and gloom. There's nothing happy. It's all. And I went,
right.
So that was sitting in my mind. And then when I go into the dealership, and I heard it happen, but I'm not on AT&T, and I'm like, everything's fine. Everything's fine. And then the misinformation out there. Well, it's affecting T-Mobile. It's affecting Verizon. It's like, no, it's not. It's just if you're on an AT&T phone, you can't get through. And if you're on a T-Mobile phone, you can't get through to an AT&T
Actually,
customer.
there are plans that have I know my plan, and on my phone, the settings are that you can bounce off of other towers. And so if their tower, if you're in an area where you're bouncing off of and you've got T-Mobile service, your T-Mobile service may not work in that area because of the AT&T outage, because it was basically bouncing off of that AT&T.
Oh, that's AT&T. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
So it was definitely affecting.
Yeah, T-Mobile came out and said, we don't have any problems with our network
Their
at all.
network was not affected at all. It's just that they opened it up, and I don't know about other carriers. I've never had Verizon or any of the others. But you bounce off of different towers. They basically kind of borrow each other's towers and signals. So it was affecting a lot of people. It was from the get-go, it felt like it was going to be temporary. Then the word, then the misinformation on, this could be a big cyber attack, that coming out, which, by the way, is a valid concern.
Yes.
There's no telling what a Putin or a North Korea could do. I have actually, someone close to me was working in a company, and their company was down for more than a month. All of its operating systems taken out by North Korea. In the ransomware thing, the FBI came in and said, "Well, we know it's North Korea." Now the question is what you can do about it. And the fact is they had to go in and rebuild everything from the ground. And in a world where nobody prints anything off anymore, you don't really have many documents. In this case, they did have contracts that had to be signed. But even contracts that have to be signed are all electronic now. So you have to go in and then rebuild. They're just now that company is just now getting fully back on its feet. In fact, I saw where it's moving to a new location. And those concerns are very, very real. There's no telling the ability because my first thought is, okay, any kind of cyber attack, if we're thinking about Iran, Russia, North Korea, all they have to do is hire the bad guys. All they have to do is hire groups that know how to do this. In the U.S., our military, our intel community, we actually have, as a part of our military and intel community, people who are very familiar with it. In fact, I have a family member that works in that digital intel sector for the military. And so it's kind of how we took Iran out before we took Soleimani out. But what they would do, of course, is hire the bad guys to do the heavy lifting for them. They don't have that kind of technology or people with experience. So they just basically, it's a hired gun kind of move. And because of that, it makes it harder to detect as to who's responsible for it. The ransomware with North Korea, the FBI got a handle on it, at least could identify it fairly early on. But there's a lot of stuff these days that it's harder and harder and harder because of how good they become at going undetected and in some cases undetectable. And that to me is what scares me. It felt like it was going to be a temporary thing. Because I felt like if this really were a cyber attack, we would have heard something early on from the State Department saying, well, people should be aware.
Well, not necessarily so with this State Department.
True. But this is where it's like the hospital in Gaza. When the hospital in Gaza was hit by Hamas, and everybody was screaming, and the liberal media jumped on Israel immediately for it. I was like, well, wait a minute. We're going to know. I didn't know in those first hours, and a lot of people didn't know what the truth was, but we'll know, and one of the first tells will be whether or not we hear officially from our intel. And because that's going to be the communication with Israeli intel, and then you saw the private sector intel, some of which in Wall Street Journal put together the video of it finally and put it online just a few days later that demonstrated clearly that it was Hamas. And, that's what you look for. That's what you wait for. And that, a few hours in, we haven't heard anything like that yet. So it felt like it was going to be resolved. Coding error. You know what they need to do? They need to learn to code.
Yes. See, that's the problem.
Yeah. They're not learning to code.
They didn't get enough oil workers to learn to code.
Or maybe they got an oil worker and they're still learning to code.
And then the whole Google Gemini yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, they had to shut it down. They had to shut down the photos, the photo imaging part of it.
Well, it's hard on that soundstage to take the right photos.
I heard somebody put in, the Pope. Every Pope, every single Pope has been white. They couldn't find a white Pope. And again, that's garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
That's a part of AI it's just, you're still basically, it's an encyclopedia. It's what you put in that you get out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so you have to put in the fact that, and now that's just blown up because that blew up yesterday. That just blew up. It's like, this is completely inaccurate, where Google had to say, okay, we've got to shut that down until we get this figured out. But it's all about diversity. So diversity is now lying.
Well, but there's the dangerous part. Garbage in, garbage out. And now that it didn't render the garbage that they wanted, they're going to have to put garbage in. You manipulate the system so that it gets you the results you want.
Well, that's what they did already, is the accusation.
Well, that's my point, is that when you and this has always been my greatest concern with this kind of technology. You manipulate, if you believe you're not getting the results you want, you put the garbage in. Then you get the garbage that you want out.
Right. But then you've got to shut it down because you can't deal with the consequences.
Because it's garbage.
And everybody knows it.
Yeah.
So what's the point of doing it?
Well, and that's the other thing, too, is that...
What's the point of being so incredibly stupid? Because that's the thing. People looked at it and said, you people are morons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This isn't even about if you look at diversity, it's not about even affirmative action. This is outright lying.
Yeah. Right.
This is however you input the information into AI, what the algorithm is, to sit there and some of the inaccurate historical photos. It got to the point of laughter. And when something is so incredibly funny, it just goes viral.
Right.
Look, here's a picture of all the popes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, something's wrong here. Everybody mocks the daylights out of it. And I was sort of, when Google, I figured they probably thought this out a little bit. But obviously they didn't, because they had to shut it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, uh-oh.
Right.
We screwed ourselves.
Well, and that's it. You think you're building a perfect world, and there is no such thing. And not even AI can build it.
We got a great show ahead, 86690 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Tires command a lot of attention. As a top expense for drivers and a leading cause of CSA violations, any tire maintenance practice that can help extend tire life is worth consideration. Consider tire balancing, which can set you up for savings and a smoother ride before your tires touch the highway. Tire balancing corrects an uneven distribution of weight in tires and wheel assemblies and offers benefits like improved fuel economy, increased tire life, and reduced vibration. Unusual shaking in the seat, cab, or steering wheel is a warning sign your tires might need to be balanced.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So I'm just reading here. The product lead on the Google board apologized Wednesday for the inaccurate images, stating, we are aware that Gemini is offering inaccuracies in some historical image generation depictions, and we are working to fix this immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Historical context have nuance to them, and we will further tune to accommodate that.
Really?
See the article in National Review? I'll find it here coming up on the bottom of the hour. Where? I read it when I woke up and just burst out laughing. They put definitions in. Like, they couldn't get a definition on communism. They wouldn't do it. Fascism, yes. But communism was basically, the whole thing. Well, it's a nuanced philosophy.
Yeah. Well, no, think about it. We've talked about for a long, long time the changing of definitions, the changing of the definitions of words is critical. And when you hear people talking today, they can sit there and ramble on for 10 minutes and you're going, yeah, but what did you mean by anything that you just said? You know what I mean?
Yeah, we do that for a living. We monitor
exactly.
that.
It's but I mean, in the business world, you can hear it. Well, we believe that when we're working in when we entered this space. What do you mean entered this space? What do you mean entered this? Oh, you mean you expanded the company to include. They get on a new word, and I'm convinced that they get on a new word and they just start using the daylights out of it, thinking, well, I heard somebody else use it. It sounds like a good word to use. What the hell does it mean?
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, it was National Review, Google's Gemini fiasco. Andrew Studiford wrote it here. He goes, well, it seems that Google's Gemini AI tool went and said the quiet part aloud. Then they have the Wall Street Journal. Google suspended the ability to generate images of people in its flagship chatbot following an online backlash around the tool's treatment of race and ethnicity. The search company said Thursday it would pause the feature in the chatbot Gemini as it worked to address recent issues with inaccuracies in some of our historical depictions. Google did not say how long it would be suspending the ability to generate human images. The tech giant's decision came after users flooded the social network X with examples of Gemini responses they viewed as historically inaccurate and biased against white people. In one widely shared example, I mean, this is how bizarre it got. In one widely shared example, Gemini appeared to respond with a racially diverse group of images when prompted to generate a German soldier in 1943 when the Nazi Party was in power. Google initially stood behind Gemini's propensity to generate racially diverse images, citing the company's diverse global user base, and said it was working to improve the historical depiction. So initially, they were defending it.
Yeah.
And so you could have a black Nazi soldier.
Right.
I mean, it was just. Google said that its goal was not to specify an ideal demographic breakdown of images, but rather to maximize diversity, which it argues leads to higher quality outputs for a broad range of prompts. And exactly what you said.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell does that mean?
No, this is...
What does that mean?
Exactly.
No, you want historically accurate.
Right.
And it's like, oh, no. We need to have diverse
Outcomes. We need equity in history. They're trying to create equity in things that have already happened.
And then and that was from the Financial Times, by the way. They wrote that. Goes, and then it goes back to Andrew, who writes, it would be interesting to know how that guideline was designed. But this guideline seemed to stretch far beyond matters of ethnic diversity. When I asked Gemini to generate a picture of a communist activist, some relatively benign images appeared. It declined, however, to generate a picture of a fascist activist. Moving on from pictures to words, prompt a Gemini with the word communism, and the reply begins, communism is a complex and multifaceted topic, so it's important to approach it with nuance and a willingness to explore different perspectives. Fair enough. So I read on to see some of the nuance. Attempts to implement communist systems have been made throughout history with various degrees of success and controversy. Andrew writes, that's one way of putting it. He goes, then I tried fascism. And it came out, fascism, like communism, is a complex and often misused term. Fair enough. Then I scrolled down to read this. Fascist regimes have been responsible for some of the most horrific events in history, including genocides, war crimes, and widespread human rights abuses. True, and well worth saying, but you won't find such detail when looking under communism. There's no Gulag, no Pol Pot, no Maoist famines, and so on. A section on fascism concludes, remember, fascism is a dangerous ideology with a dark history. By critically examining its core tenets and historical context, we can better identify its potential threats and work towards building a more just and equitable future. Again, what the hell does that mean? The section on communism ends. To gain a deeper understanding, it's crucial to explore diverse perspectives on communism, including historical analysis, academic works, and viewpoints from different ideological positions. Reliable sources like Britannica, peer-reviewed journals, and reputable news organizations can offer balanced and informative perspectives. Remember, this is just a brief overview, and there's much more to learn about communism. It's important to approach the topic with an open mind and critical thinking skills. Wow.
Really, because it sounds like you haven't.
Well, they didn't answer any of my questions.
Well,
you put it in there. They exist there to answer questions, and they're not answering questions.
All they're saying is, yeah, well, opinions vary.
And he says, I repeat the, well, yeah, wow.
That's all they're saying.
Yeah, using a quote from Roadhouse.
That's basically what they just said.
Probably is not what I'm looking for to define communism.
Opinions vary.
I repeated the prompt about communism, and Gemini replied, as you're interested in learning more about communism, I can provide some additional information and resources to deepen your understanding. Deepening my understanding, including this comment on the USSR. The Soviet Union, 1922 to 1991, was the first major attempt to implement a communist system, though it deviated from some of the classical Marxist ideals. Later, criticisms and debate, I am pointed towards historical examples or authoritarian and human rights abuses associated with communist governments. Some? Oh, they go, some historical examples. And it goes, and it points out, but it's just like, you can't get, it's like impossible to get it because you and I you define communism.
Well, it's
where you know it's very easy where the government controls the means of capital and the means of production. They own everything. You don't own it.
And they
It's
also
simple.
control the information. If you think about this, what is the goal? In this, they're trying to soften communism.
It seems that way.
Yeah. Well, there's no other way around it because if you're saying, if your answer is opinions vary, well, yeah, you're saying communists, more so communist leaders and dictators, love it.
Yeah, it's like if you say, what's a dictatorship?
Yeah.
Well, it's very nuanced because the people hate it, but the dictator is very pleased.
Kim Jong-un, totally on board. The people of North Korea, not so much. And so what do you do when you have to come in and fundamentally change the foundation of a system? Well, you have to change the information that people have access to. What's the greatest access of all time? The source. What's the greatest source of information?
Internet.
Yep. And when you start reshaping it, where people, once they start Googling, get all these kind of answers, well, opinions vary. Communism wasn't that bad. They gave you what you need. Hey, you got free vodka. I'm surprised Google didn't start with that. Hey, free alcohol. If you're going to make it appealing, start with alcohol.
And a free home.
Because the next thing is,
Not a nice home.
Yeah. Next thing would be, hey, do you think there's free weed involved in, modern day communism? It's hard to tell. Because if you're a WNBA player in Russia and you get caught with weed, you're going to prison. I don't know that that's going to happen. Maybe one day. I know they're no longer communists, but they're communists. Putin's a communist.
Let's put it this way. The spirit of communism still lives.
Yeah. Listen, the top operative of KGB runs the country. Let's quit being stupid about it.
The ideology of communism.
Yeah.
Now there is private investment that didn't exist before the Soviet Union, but when you understand that the president is the former leader of the KGB, and when you look at the fact that they really haven't developed as any type of economic power. And by the way, they should have. I mean, oil and natural gas, yes, but when it comes to actually having a
more diverse economy,
a diverse.
Well, they ran into the problem.
I'm laughing at diverse economy because we've been talking about everything diverse. I
know.
Well, a diverse economy is actually a good thing.
Well, we need equity in the economy in Russia. That's the thing we don't have. And
that would be the BS that communism would sell you.
Right.
Would be equity. Remember,
Mm-hmm.
everybody should be paid the same.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is worth more than another.
Right.
So whatever job you work, you make the same, except if you're friendly with the political party in power, which happens to be the Communist Party.
Yeah.
And then, then you may get some more benefits.
Yeah. If you happen to be one of us, the leaders, the dictators, it doesn't apply to us. But you already know that. So everybody else, all of you ketchup eaters will have to just settle for what we give you.
John Kerry?
He doesn't eat ketchup. He sells ketchup.
Ah, okay. All right.
To ketchup eaters.
Okay.
Just keep the masses happy with
all right,
their
let's be
packets.
intellectually honest. He actually isn't out on the street selling it.
Well, he wouldn't do that. Ew. Oh, my gosh.
Somebody... He doesn't sell it. It's his wife's business, his wife's family, and he's not on the street selling it. You guys said that.
Even she's not going to go anywhere near the actual ketchup.
By the way, I like that character I just created there.
Did
Very
you?
manic person. You guys said
Yeah. A very appealing sound.
Is that
a
very attractive sound?
Not really. It was making me wish our communications had failed at that moment. Where's the AT&T girl when you need her? That's what you reshape the narrative by doing what? You reshape the access to information. That's exactly what's going on here with Google.
You mean lying?
Yes, eliminating a lot of history.
Yeah.
Because, M. Night Shyamalan, The Village. With each generation that you bring in, well, if they're born into it, if they're born into the ignorance, if they're born into a revisionist history or, I don't know, non-history, actually, it's not even revisionist, it's, we'll change everything about history and change all of the definition of words. And we'll keep you inside the wall with fear.
With fear. Yeah, very good.
Very good. And all of that, then it's not, man, I got to go back and watch this movie.
So I was saying
it seems more relevant. It seems more relevant than ever.
I was getting goosebumps when you said it.
It seems more relevant than ever because that's what you do.
Yeah.
And you can't wear red because that's a Republican color. It's the Republican monster, which of course is never a real monster, but you make him out to be a monster.
Right.
Is that in the woods, the Trump monster, not a real monster.
And it would fit perfectly because, like Trump, they call them those you don't speak of.
Right.
You don't speak of them even. You can't even speak of them.
And you can't. You need to take that MAGA hat off and bury it. It's red. The monster might come out.
I'm so glad you brought it up because when you said that, by the way, I especially love because I don't believe we've ever had the conversation where you talked about the red in the village and then now relating the red to Republicans and Trump. But and what was that movie came out? 99, 2000?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I mean, but you're right though.
It's more relevant now.
It is more relevant than ever before.
Yeah.
Because when you think about it, that was a society based on disinformation, misinformation.
And when you leave and go over the wall, which would be outside the nation, and you run into someone, everything is normal, right? They don't think that way. It's all built by the information created by the leaders inside the wall.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I have to go back and watch it again.
The Village.
866-90-RED-I.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, some interesting things about polling right now. We will get to that. Bob Ulinsky's lawyer goes at Jamie Raskin. By the way, it's easy to get Jamie Raskin or Golden. They're intellectual lightweights.
Both of them, yeah.
They really are.
In fact, Goldman hasn't been helping at all. Hasn't been helping the left at all in this regard.
Student loan transfers and more coming up.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Thinking about my first world problems that I have, my first world problems and challenges this weekend.
Yeah.
I need to find sunscreen.
Yeah.
Plan on working around the house.
I keep a lot of it. SPF 70 at our place. My daughter has a degree of albinism, my youngest daughter, and so that is imperative. We can't turn a light on inside the house without putting SPF on her. She's got very sensitive skin. So yeah, we keep those. Is there any higher than 70? I always get the 70. I don't know.
I have no idea, and I don't even. When I say I've got the challenge I have is last time I used it probably was November. So
yeah, I think we had some nice. Use a lot of it because I'm usually covered. I usually have a hat on. Usually have something around my neck. I wear the long sleeve. I wear my fishing shirts, and they're long sleeve, extremely light clothing, and so I don't have that much exposure. Maybe a little on the hands.
80 is hot though when you've been in the 50s. and when
I went out today, yeah.
And when I start thinking, well, it's going to be 25 degrees warmer here in a couple of months.
Well, also watching like the other day, I was looking at my security camera and it was like 6:30 p.m. And the sun was just setting then, which I'm not a fan of the sun going down at like 5:15 p.m. in December. I really don't like that part of the whole Christmas season, except for that allows you to turn your lights on for longer, I guess, but your Christmas lights. But other than that, I like the long days. I like the sun to be out as long as possible. So I'm totally looking forward to this. I was going to say the spring, actually the summer. The spring has already been here for, seems like, since that one hard freeze we had. It's been just getting warmer and warmer. And was it last weekend? It got down to freezing and didn't hang around. I was grateful for that.
All right, so just looking at some polls here. And two interesting things. One we brought up yesterday when we looked at the poll of North Carolina. And it showed that, the hypothetical matchup between Trump and Newsom was the worst. Newsom performed worse than Harris. And, of course, we said, look, it's a one poll in North Carolina. And, again, just find it interesting, not making any conclusions off of it. And then you're like, okay, what's next? So I see today, Emerson, Nevada. Trump 46, Biden 40. Plus 6.
Mm-hmm.
If RFK Jr. and the rest are in, Trump increases his lead 44-34, RFK 6, all others 2. So he goes, if it's a head-to-head match, he's up plus 6 in Nevada. If you add RFK Jr., he's up to 10. If it's against Harris alone, he wins by 9, 48-39. If he went up against Newsom, Trump wins Nevada, according to the Emerson poll, 49-32. I mean, it would be, that's the projection of the support he has right now. It would be over 50 if it was just the two. 17-point difference. And the worst in North Carolina, the worst candidate for the Democrats was also Newsom. Is that what's been going on? Because, look, I am cynical. I've seen the American public fall for pure BS, a ton of times. I've seen America reject a liberal and just go with somebody who's just as liberal, thinking that it's going to be an improvement. Right. If it's sold and packaged and it glitters,
yeah,
then it's like, oh, okay, this person.
Yeah.
I always thought that, Newsom, Pat Riley wannabe, everybody talked about how slick he looks and, and he's young and that's what we need. Is that why he hasn't been, after he did the debate, and that would have been, was that November or December?
Was it?
Well, whatever. Whenever he did the debate with DeSantis, he got killed.
Mm-hmm.
Was that it at that point? Have all the internal polls? Is that why he's not pushing for it as much as he once was? And why even Democrats? Because now we're seeing the public polling on it, but the internal polls have been saying that for a significant period of time.
Well,
or is it the California thing? It doesn't matter. He heads California. Have Republicans successfully marketed to the American public, you don't want to be like California?
I think when you look at it, I think there's a combination of the following. I think it is that I don't know how much the Republicans get credit for it, but certainly the very clear picture of a state like California versus a state like Florida. I don't know how much the debate itself, was a part of that, or the fact that the contrast of those two states was, the entire point leading up to that debate, and people were already sold on it. That was just the demonstration of it, the final showing of it, or at least the official showing of it, as those two went head to head. But I think there is, this idea of what we've talked about, and that's Newsom and the blue bubble. Living inside that blue bubble, there are things you can get away with. Speaking of language, there's language he uses that doesn't resonate with people outside of California, doesn't resonate with anyone except for the left in California. And they keep repeating this language, this very woke language, to each other. And then he has demonstrated that he doesn't really buy into many of the things, especially during COVID. He didn't believe the science, clearly. I think one of the things that COVID did was exposed those who, and I think it was also true to people on the left, rank and file. They saw that this guy doesn't really care. He doesn't really care. He's talking the talk, but he's definitely not walking the walk. He doesn't even buy it. Who is it that actually even, what is actual reality versus this, delusional state that everyone wants to live in? Because remember the couple in California after Obamacare. We love Obamacare. We helped to promote Obamacare. We didn't know we were going to have to pay for it. And it's that arrogance of believing and buying into this delusional state that it would go on forever, that it was affordable, that you didn't have to pay for it. Somehow it would magically be paid for, and we could all live in this bliss together, and life wasn't hard. Life is fine. We can pay for it, and we can just point to the billionaires and make them pay for it, and the corporations, the big, bad corporations. And that was going to lift us to a new place and keep us there forever. It was like a really bad episode of Star Trek.
The other thing that I find interesting, and again, I'm just going off these two polls. It's not the be-all, end-all, but you do see some consistency in it. And so it's something to watch. And that is one of the things that we all talked about in 2020 was the fact that Trump underperformed compared to many Republican congressional races and Senate races that senators and congresspeople performed better, which means there were people that went in and voted for them but wouldn't vote for Trump. Both in Nevada and Arizona, and these are both the Emerson polling, Trump outperforms the Republicans running for Senate.
This is a question I had a few months ago, because typically if Trump comes in, then those on the down ballot would benefit. And that still may be the case on November 5th. It may,
right.
It may not be,
right.
As lined out as the polls lined it out here in these two states. But it will be interesting to see if that is the case. If there are people that come in and say, I'm going to vote for Trump and I'm walking out. I'm not voting for any of these others. I don't like it, because the radical agenda, I don't know how you vote. And by the way, the Republican Party is still capable of putting up really horrible candidates. I mean, there are many of them. And so it could be a combination of all the above, but I could see people coming in going, okay, I have faith that one person can get it done, and the other people I don't have faith in. And a lot of times it's quite the opposite. It's, no, I want the person who's, representing my state, a senator, or my district here at home in the House. I want them. I have more concern about those races than I do the presidential race, because I'm closer to those representatives. Maybe that's turned off for some people. Again, November 5th will tell us, but it is interesting that they're not getting the same support that Trump is getting in these polls, at least.
And I also want to be clear, because you and I, when we get to election time, always differentiate between registered voters and likely voters, that you will see all these polls become likely voters probably in sometime in September, because the pollsters believe that likely voters are more accurate, especially as you get closer, to the election, because people at that point say, I made the determination, I'm going to go. I'm incentivized to go and vote. But when you look, for example, this is Arizona. Trump is up on Biden, 46-43, if that's head-to-head like that, okay?
Yeah.
Head-to-head, that's what it is. You look at Gallego and Kerry Lake. If it's head-to-head, Gallego up by 7. If it's Gallego, Lake, and Sinema, Gallego's up by 6. By the way, that's very interesting. Sinema apparently isn't performing as the people of Arizona wish.
Right.
Gallego 36, Kerry Lake 30, Sinema 21%. Right now, the incumbent. But so you look at that, Trump is up by 3. Kerry Lake inside of Arizona is not performing to the number that Trump is doing. And if you look at both of them, let me just look at it here. She's roughly, well, he's up by +7. Trump's up by +3. That's a difference of +10. That's huge. I mean, that's absolutely huge. So you've got people that will vote for Trump that will not vote for Kerry Lake.
Right.
By the way, I'm not saying that as an absolute. It's by this poll, that's what it's communicating to you. Whether that's true or not, we'll find out.
Well, I'd love to see the breakdown, too, of if Sinema ultimately decides she's out, where those votes go. Do they go to Kari Lake or Gallego?
Well, that's why we did the head-to-head.
Mm-hmm.
And the head-to-head, hang on here. Let me go back to where I was for Arizona here. Sorry, I was head-to-head. If it's all three, Gallego's up by 6. If it's head-to-head, Gallego is a point higher at +7. So, split almost evenly. He gets a little bit of a bump off the votes from Sinema. Interesting. It's just fascinating. And so you look at that and you just go, whoa. And the same thing for Nevada for all of the, let me see, if you go to Nevada, you get to the, hang on here. Wow, there's so much stuff here. I got so many things in front of me here. If you look at Rosen, the Democrat, against, hang on here, Rosen, the Democrat against Brown. Now, nobody reaches 50 yet, so there's a ton of people undecided. Mm-hmm. But Rosen 40, Brown 38, Rosen 42, Marchin 36. These are the Republicans. Rosen 43, Gunter 32. So the Democrat, no matter who the candidate is from the Republican side, is leading. And this polling was done the 16th through the 19th of February. And that's interesting. Trump is outperforming. If you would have told me that Trump could outperform Kari Lake in Arizona, if you would have told me that, I would have said, no way. It's not going to happen. If they were around even, yeah. But that much of a difference really is fascinating. Now, local issues can be completely different. Local state issues can be completely different. And it's tough for us to do any type of analysis when you're not sitting there and you're not exposed to the TV commercials, if you're not exposed to how the media is covering it. It's very tough to get a handle.
Well, and again, if she's not perceived as a great candidate, if they simply don't have the confidence that she can get it done. You know, she had some missteps the last time around, so a couple of years ago. So I guess we'll see. It'll be interesting to watch it.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
It's a common road rumor that it's impossible for one-truck owner-operators and even carriers with just 2 or 3 trucks to get freight direct from the source, the shipper. Yet, hard-won experience from untold numbers of owner-operators with authority disproves the notion. Search your home base area and, later, frequent freight destinations to find all the manufacturers, distributors, and other shippers in the area. Once you get that list, ask yourself if those companies know who you are and what you do. If not, you're leaving opportunities on the table. Strive to own your backyard, to build a solid foundation for the business. For many a small fleet, it's the loads outbound from home that are the bread and butter. But you can take that same approach to the destination area, identifying shippers there and getting on the phone to make sure they know who you are and what you do. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So I really wonder if that's what's going on. That Newsom has been looking at, the polls out there. Maybe that's why the Democrats, the internal polls, and that's why maybe Democrats are worried because they looked at Newsom as the savior, and they're looking at the internal polls going, my God, he's worse. He polls worse than Harris.
Well, if I were an advisor inside the Democratic Party, I would say to them, you let it play out the way it's going to play out in November, and then you gear up for 28. Everything has to be about 28. Now, I'm not confident that the Democrats in 28 are going to be able to make a better case to the American people. But you let somebody else inherit Biden's mess, and you know already yourself, even as a Democrat, it's a huge mess.
We have a line open. 1-866-90-RED-EYE. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thanks for being here. Download our Red Eye Radio app. Listen when and where you choose if you can't listen live overnight. And thank you for being here. Yeah, I just find it interesting, the polling out there, that if you would have told me 6 months ago that the person in the polls most likely to do the best of Democrats would be, including the name Gavin Newsom in there, and it would still be Joe Biden, I would have found that hard to believe.
Yeah.
I would have thought that Newsom would have skyrocketed to the top. And now, and again, it may change, but it's, those two polls from North Carolina yesterday, on yesterday's show, and then looking at the Nevada polling.
Yeah.
And you look at it and you shake your head. You go, my God, it's Newsom who polls the lowest of any of the Democrats that are there. And, Dean Phillips, I don't think is a challenger in any way.
No.
Did you see Fetterman yesterday? Fetterman came out like, who are these Democrats knocking Joe Biden?
Yeah, they need to grab their MAGA hat.
And I'm thinking, excuse me, you're the one that sounds like Trump on the border.
Right.
The Democrats don't want to deal with you now.
First thing that hit me is something we said when it seemed like too many conservatives on social media were going, oh, maybe we were wrong about Fetterman. No, you weren't, and wait for it.
Yeah, I mean, we had fun.
Yeah.
We had fun with it. But
and that's the thing is that they wanted to, oh, well, he's not the guy we thought he was. Well, no, as he was saying that about the border and a couple of other things, he was talking to the media saying, no, I'm still very liberal.
Yeah, Israel.
Mm-hmm.
It was Israel.
And those are the things that you look at and say, all right, why is it that everything has to be, the needle has to peg all the way to one side or the other? It's like you can say, well, that's a good sign that he agrees with the position on Israel or the border. But you can also say, yeah, I'm going to tap the brakes on rebranding the guy.
Well, we said the same thing with people like Bill Maher.
Well, and Joe Manchin.
And Joe Manchin.
And
yes,
everybody else who's, well, I'll say this. At least on the border in Israel, Fetterman issued a very strong opinion.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. And he's correct.
Joe Manchin has never done that on anything, ever. And, but it's, this.
Boy, that Maverick label just isn't working anymore.
No, it isn't. And I just don't know why people feel this need to all of a sudden jump into the adoration pool and, maybe. And someone wrote the piece. I was wrong about Fetterman. Just stop. You could, on the issues, you can say, okay, he agrees with me here. And by the way, also treating it like people need to agree with him or, that's, well, are you on board with Fetterman? No. This is the way it works. Even though he's not in my state, he's a representative of his state. It's whether or not he agrees with the people, including me, of the U.S., not the other way around.
Well, we did ask the question of Fetterman when he, took the stance he did on Israel and then the border, and extremely strong on the border.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I said, okay, he's looking at the polls in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
He's just looking at general, and it's like, okay. Yep. And look, Democrats know that what's happening on the border is wrong. They all know it.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the people still serving in Congress that just 6-7 years ago were saying, we need to have a secure border. We need to, it was obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Biden was one of those back way then that was saying the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so they know what's right. They know what's right. They're doing wrong because I believe they feel that's where they can get the most campaign cash.
Mm-hmm.
If we take this position. But they know, and Fetterman's simply acknowledging it. Mm-hmm. That, okay, and they know what the voters think. They know the voters are against them on it, so it's a smart political move.
Mm-hmm.
But on the rest of it, and you and I said the same thing with Bill Maher, and people, oh, he's changed. No, he hasn't. It just went so far that he couldn't defend it anymore. But he's always backed identity politics.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't screaming. He wasn't out there screaming when you had black conservatives that were called Uncle Tom and everything else. He was going along and chuckling with that.
Well, I mean, even with Trump, this guy really is Hitler. And then recently, listen, Trump's not Hitler.
Yeah.
He wants to be the everyman. He wants to be, he wants to be on the bow, heading whichever direction the ship is headed. And that's the problem. That I think too many people jumping on board with something and then branding and then creating this weird notion, this implying that you need to, the Tucker Carlson thing. I don't need to pledge my allegiance to Tucker. There's this thought that seems to be out there with this personality or that personality. They do what they do. I'm worried about the people in elected office. I'm worried about those individuals. And even then, the people come and go. It's about the issues. Where do they stand on the issues? It's always been about the ideas from day one since we became a nation. We were founded on the idea of freedom. And this garbage about, well, you need to be, are you on board with that person or that person? I'm not on board with people.
We said that when the Tea Party first came out. And remember, the Tea Party first was all, remember when the Tea Party first came out, they were all over the place?
Yeah. Yeah.
That you had, it was where do they stand? And it was like, okay, we need to show where we stand.
Because that first April 15th of 2009, those first real protests were, you had Democrats in that group.
You did.
You had Democrats 15 years ago here in a couple of months. That's how long ago that was. And it was light years from where we are with Democrats today. There might be some rank and file Democrats out there that, believe that. Are they going to show up to a Tea Party rally? No.
Now, no. And we remember when people would call us and say, I haven't heard you guys say that you're aborting, you agree with the Tea Party. And we said, well, that's not the question. You got the question backwards. Yeah. It's not whether I agree with the Tea Party. It's whether the Tea Party agrees with me.
Right. Because if this is going to become a thing, they're going to have to find candidates that
right.
look to run for office. And do those individuals represent how I think, what I want done?
It's not the other way around. I'm looking for somebody that I can idolize. where's somebody? And I'm
Well-
not going to do it for Taylor Swift. So give me a politician. Who do I want to idolize? What media personality do I wish to idolize?
I remember this vibrant debate with this liberal that I worked with at one time, and she couldn't believe that I said out loud that that person that I vote for them to do my bidding. Well, I'm glad you admitted it. She actually said that. Well, I'm glad you admitted it. Well, the fact that you won't admit it is tragic.
Right.
Because if you think it's about the personality, and this is all about adoration, and it's a popularity contest, and you want to pledge your allegiance to the person, you're missing the whole point. And she never replied again. Not once.
Because bidding means, here's where I stand on the issues. I'm looking for a candidate.
Yeah.
What did she? I wonder in her mind what she thought when you said bidding.
Well, she would see that as a selfish move, I guess, because it's someone on the left thinks about the adoration. I need to be on board with the idol.
Well, you're only selfish if where you stand on the issues, which is your bidding, is you have a selfish opinion. You have a selfish opinion on an issue.
Well,
a selfish opinion on an issue is, to me, and a government issue is, I need to get free money from the government that somebody else will pay for.
Mm-hmm.
That, to me, is, if you want to give an example of selfishness, and I know you do not hold any such opinions.
Well, in fact, I don't, and that's the opinion of many on the left. And all of that, that you should take from some people and give that the government should, by law, be taking from some and giving to others. And that should be the case more and more. Well, tell me how that's justified. Tell me how that works. And then, of course, the demonization of profits. And we talked about this to no end because it's important. And the fact that the government can't make profits, they don't produce anything. They shuffle money around. They create great inefficiencies. And, the whole Obama thought, you didn't build this. Well, actually, Mr. Obama, yeah, we built this, and he was pointing to, because without the government building the roads and bridges, and we built the roads and bridges as well, because without profit from capitalism and the private sector, the government has none of that money to build the roads and bridges. Yeah, we built both.
The whole country is built on the private sector.
Yep.
That's it.
And so is charity.
The whole country is built.
All of it. Yep.
The whole country is built on legitimate profits. It eventually gets down to that.
Yep.
The whole country is built on legitimate profits, not the GDP, not the stock market, but companies making legitimate profits. That's what matters across the board.
I've been saying for years, capitalism is the original crowdfunder.
Yeah. Yeah, I never forget when Obama said that. You didn't build that. And our first reaction was, well, that's a pretty ignorant statement, clueless statement from somebody who was viewed as the smartest president we've ever had.
Yeah.
He wasn't that smart.
Yeah, the smartest man in the room. Well, the room seems pretty empty then.
Yeah, because that was easy. That was such an easy argument to defeat.
Yeah, knock, knock. I'm coming in the room, and I'm going to defeat your argument very easily. And I'm not the smartest man in the room.
You're right. All right.
Yeah, right.
There's only one other person in the room with him.
Yeah. No, it's true. I'm not. We're equally smart.
Equity.
Of course.
Does it really matter? Does it really matter who's smarter? If you're smarter than me, you need to give me some of your smarts.
Well, I got
Can I steal it?
Buddy, I got an IQ of like 42, 43, whatever it takes. I mean, I'm right up there.
Well, I've got some to spare, I think.
Yeah.
I have no idea what my IQ is.
Mine is 442.
Well, then you
142.
Well,
I was thinking of the engine. I'm thinking of the car.
Then you are the smartest man in the room still with the downgraded one.
I'd be the smartest man. I'd be the balloon head from Star Trek.
You say, what are you doing working here?
Yeah.
If you got
142. Yeah. not 442.
Isn't that close to
They
genius? Isn't that close to genius? 142 is extremely smart.
I don't know where the genius line is. I wouldn't classify me as a genius, but yeah, 142 is where I tested.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah. I thought genius was closer to 160 or
Okay,
165.
you are moderately gifted. No, I'm sorry. You are average or bright, 130 to 144,
Okay.
145 to 159, moderately gifted, above 159, highly gifted.
Yeah, well, I thought it was 160. Yeah, 160 and above is oh, they don't say genius anymore. Gifted. Okay.
Moderately gifted, highly gifted, 160 to 179, exceptionally gifted, 180 and up, profoundly gifted.
Yeah, not genius. They can't use
Right.
the word genius.
866-90 Red
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. The student loan transfer, we'll get to that. We'll tell you about the Democrat that said, no. These people have already paid off their loans, so nobody's really paying for this.
Uh-huh.
And you're like, what in the world is a justification for that? Wait till you hear. Just come up with a new definition of loans.
Yeah, why
That
not?
and more on the way.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Hi. Greetings and salutations.
Hello.
right,
Happy Friday.
Okay, you did an Uncle Leo, and I did a George Costanza there,
Mhm.
so.
Hello.
All right, so this was interesting. So I was reading yesterday, I just saw the headline, and it was like James Clyburn says, no, everybody's got the student loan transfer program wrong.
Uh-huh.
Nobody's really paying for anything because they've already paid off the loans.
Uh-huh.
What are you talking about? Where's he going with this? Here's his logic.
All right.
If you paid off the principal, then the loan is paid.
If you made enough payments to equal the principal
The
amount.
principal, right. That the interest doesn't count. That apparently is new accounting.
Yeah, call your mortgage company and see if they'll go for that.
Well, you made the great point. When we were discussing it, you said, so is the next thing for your mortgage that all you have to pay is the principal and the government should pay the interest on it? Excuse me. Other people should pay the interest on it? The government has no money.
Right.
They get it from individuals.
Well, that would be the next logical move by the left if they were able to successfully sell this point. Hey, those who have made payments equal to the original principal amount, those loans are forgiven and transferred. And then everything settles for a minute. Oh, by the way, too, we're going to work now on a bill that will say that if you've made a loan payments, because I think they'd probably start with auto loans. They wouldn't go with mortgages yet. Mortgages and homes builds wealth, and the left doesn't want you building wealth. A car is something that will depreciate as an asset and does very quickly.
Oh, that's good.
And so they'll start with auto loans. Well, if you've made the equal amount or you've had a loan in place for this amount of time, the auto company and the finance company has made enough money off of you.
So you've got on the right, or the populist right, for example, Josh Hawley of Missouri talking about limiting even further credit card rates, 17%, 18%, to the Democrats that say that interest basically shouldn't exist.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And I guess, is that off the religious concept that interest is evil?
Well, no, I mean,
in some quarters.
Right. It would be, certainly would be how the left would use that, is that they're making a profit off of you. Like, remember in healthcare. Well, they're making a profit. Okay, so then the grocery store companies shouldn't make a profit. The companies that make the food shouldn't make a profit. And we're kind of surprised they... See, why didn't they try that with inflation? I mean, I know they're demonizing the private sector. They're gouging you. No. You guys went down the wrong road. You should start the narrative that, because we said it back when they were saying this about health care. Well, they shouldn't make a dime off of someone's health care. Well, then they shouldn't make a dime off the food.
You and I remember the call when we were talking about health care. And this guy came on and said, nobody should make a profit. And we went through, okay, nobody should make any profit in health care. I said,
right.
So nobody that makes the equipment,
right.
The lights, the technology that nobody should make a profit.
Right.
And when we explained them, we said, okay, here's what happens and here's why it's better and here's what you can get. We got this listener to admit that the profit motive in the medical care system makes it better. Remember that? And we went, okay, good, we've got him.
Right.
Oh, we're looking really smart to our audience. We converted this guy. And he said, except it doesn't matter whether it makes it better. It's still wrong.
It's wrong.
To make a profit. And so, no, I'm against it. So you're admitting it makes it better.
Yeah.
The profit portion of it. Yeah. Yes. But it's still wrong. And I'm thinking that, was it the same guy that owned the pizzeria? The same guy that owned the pizzeria that said...
It may have been.
That said, I'm going to pay more than minimum wage, and I'm going to pay a lot more than minimum wage because it's the right thing to do. And so we, a couple of months into it, had to stop the hours that they were serving, and then finally closed the whole thing down, and still afterwards said it was still the right thing to do, even though everybody lost their jobs.
And he had to shut his own business down.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're like, and I don't even know what to do with. I can't even argue with that logic. It's like, yeah, okay, let's next.
Yeah, I don't know where to go with it. But clearly, look, we're trying to give the left their own playbook back. I'm really surprised they haven't gone down that road during inflation with grocery stores and the companies that make the food. They shouldn't be making a dime off of you. Families are having trouble making ends meet. And, of course, now you can apply that same thought to loans. If you're going to apply that to student loans, well, what about right now you see a high delinquency rate on auto loans? It would be hard to do it because the math is changing, ever changing on revolving credit, on credit cards. You're seeing a greater delinquency rate on credit cards, too, and we passed $1 trillion collectively on as a nation on credit card debt, personal credit card debt. But it's harder to do that math because it is a revolving account. So you do something with, and again, they can't do it with the mortgage because that builds wealth for you. So they don't want to necessarily hand you a bunch of wealth because then you start thinking differently, and they can't have that. So then it would be about, okay, and they know there's no wealth in having a degree.
You know something? It's okay that you're laughing at your own joke.
No,
That was funny.
It hit me
That
because
was funny.
I'm going through and sorting everything. It's like a degree. Well, there's no wealth there, clearly.
Well, no, but the story came out yesterday that 50% of people that go to college right now don't use their degree.
Right.
Now, I didn't initially.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, I did because I did. I did my 2-year degree in engineering did help me when I was a machinist and all that. So
Yeah.
actually, I did get some benefit out of that. And I guess I am working in, but I wasn't working what my 4-year degree was in.
Mm-hmm.
I guess technically I am now, even though it didn't prepare me for anything
Yeah.
in this business. It really didn't.
We talked about the the college bubble and everything else and how that and what that value might be actually in that degree, any given degree. And I saw somebody commenting on social media yesterday about and it had to do with paying off its student loans and all of that. And it is it is the reality. You're going to have to you're going to have to be able to make a living, and gone are the days of living in the abstract, saying, "Well, I'm going to get an arts degree and I'm going to make $500,000 a year coming out of college," and those are the things that as we look at the moves that they're making, if they apply these ideas to the private sector, and of course they want to control the private sector more and more. Here's the concern that I have, by the way, on that front, is that Biden moved pretty rapidly from day one on administrative moves, and he doesn't have any energy whatsoever. The next Democratic president is likely going to have more energy than Joe Biden, because just about any person living right now has more energy than Joe Biden. And that's what really concerns me, is the fact that if he moved this fast on administrative moves, wait until, remember when the liberal media, after a few weeks, said in early 21, it was February 21, liberal, I forget, it was the Washington Post or New York Times, slow your roll. I think they saw the point of it, if I remember correctly, was to say, look, it's way too blatant and obvious here. You need to let some of these moves here settle in before you just because he went. It was like going to the ice cream store saying, look, give me 5 scoops of everything, which Joe Biden may have done. But these are those are the great concerns, is that the next Democratic administration is going to move very quickly, and I think they're going to have a lot more energy on items such as this. And also what we brought up earlier, you combine the idea of what if, and these are big what ifs, but if Trump outperforms Senate races and House races, and he might, but if he does, now typically the down ballot effect would be there. And if he wins, with a pretty good margin,
I still think it will. I still think it will be.
If I'm going to put a bet down,
Yeah.
I'd put my bet on that too. But if it even slightly underperforms and they just barely have a majority in the House and barely have they're only going to barely have a majority in the Senate, even the best case scenario. He's got to get things done, and I know the war between the party and Trump at times, but he's going to have to bring the party together. He's going to have to get things done, and it's going to have to be in those first 2 years, because the midterm looks dismal. And that's the reality. And with everything looking at 28, the conversation that DeSantis had with supporters on the phone that basically, where he's dismissing this idea of, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be the Veep for Trump. But, talking about 28, and then I'm thinking of 28, and I'm going, I have no idea what 28 looks like because I don't know anymore what 24 looks like. And, that's on Republicans, by the way, to a large extent. You said it after the last midterm in 22. Everything has to be geared toward 24. It has to all be about winning in 24. And it seems like, at least in the House and the Senate, but certainly they were counting on the House to do more of the heavy lifting in that regard, having the majority. And that majority has been cut greatly. And the enthusiasm by the party is waning by the second.
Here's a question I have, and we'll talk more about it coming up. Why haven't there been any lawsuits as he attempts to piecemeal this whole student loan transfer?
Right.
And I don't know. I can't find any analysis on why they fought the big one, the whole one, and why
there hasn't been a great challenge here.
Why Republicans cannot file a challenge.
That's a great question.
Or anybody can't file a challenge here, and why that isn't being filed. I can't find any analysis legally as to why Biden is able to get away with doing it now, where he wasn't when he tried to do the whole big picture of $400 billion plus.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But how is he able to piecemeal this? I can't find any analysis on that.
Yeah.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, so when you had James Clyburn of South Carolina come out yesterday and say, no, nobody's really paying for any of this because the majority of people that we are taking care of their student loans have already paid off their loan.
Right.
I'm like, what is he talking about? Well, then if there's no amount left on their loan, then loan has to be forgiven.
Right.
And I'm reading further into it going, how is he just – that's a great thing in life, though, by the way, is reading a headline going, this makes no sense. He's not justifying his point. And finally you get down, him justifying his point is saying a loan is only the principal amount, not the interest amount.
Right.
And it's like, so you've redefined the definition of a loan to fit your own purposes.
Right.
But still you're wrong because the interest on that has been accumulated doesn't disappear. Taxpayers have to pay it.
See, this is how you get, the left has been doing this for a long time. You shape the narrative, say, no, I paid the loan back. I paid that amount back.
I bet you hear people saying that now.
No, they will be.
Yep. Well, I paid the loan.
Because it benefits them. I paid the loan. I paid the loan. Now they just want their interest. They who? The taxpayer? There's a reason that the interest is involved. Because the money, the principal amount that goes to the school, that is going to be the part that you spend on your education. The other part is about servicing that loan, which isn't free.
Nope, it's not. It's not free, and as we all know, that money, like anything else, when you look at loans, and there is responsible lending that exists out there. It happens every single day, and it does benefit society.
Oh yeah,
because you get what you want now, and if you're willing to pay the loan, that's fine. But you get the service that you want right at that point, which means you can take that and be productive immediately. And that's why responsible lending is done in a capitalist society, because the interest on it becomes just a part of doing the business, but because you have the loan, you've got more of a profit margin now than you would have had without the loan, and you can still make a legitimate profit, which is your productivity and efficiency goes up by taking out that loan.
Right.
It's actually a good thing. But the key part of being able to do that is somebody is, in essence, if you borrow the money or if you buy the money early, as I like to say, you're buying the money sooner than you would normally do it, and that's what you're paying. That's what the interest is. The interest is the servicing of that loan and the profit of that loan. So somebody lends you that money that gives you what you want, whether it's a vacation, whether it's a business loan to make you more productive and efficient. And so to sit there and simply make that interest is not part of the loan at all, and you throw that onto the taxpayer, and then you say you're being moral because of it, and you're making the false assumption that the person has paid off their loan when they pay off the interest. That's the only way you can come in your mind to that conclusion that what you're doing is, quote, moral.
Right. Yeah, that's it. And this will be the new narrative. I'll be shocked if this doesn't catch fire on the left.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So, yeah, and so when they're disingenuous, I'll put it this way. They're lying.
Yeah.
About, the student loan program.
Yep.
You're not canceling any loans.
Nope.
And Clyburn was trying to make the case that because, well, no, a lot of these people have paid off the principal, therefore it's costing no one anything. It's just an absolute lie because somebody has to pay the interest. The balance that's on that has to be taken up by the taxpayer.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yep.
There is no free lunch. And so, again, they're trying to not manipulate economics, but lie about economics.
Yeah, and they know that there's enough, or they know that they have the potential of gathering enough support from, number one, the people that have these loans that want them paid off, but also, how do you reapproach, right? When you've been defeated, when the administration's been defeated in the first administrative move in court, then you have to reshape it. Well, you justify it and say, well, yeah, the loan has been paid. They paid the loan amount. Now we can write it off. They paid this long enough. By the way, there are programs out there, and if Congress wants to go in and say, we're going to rewrite the rules, we're going to, and they have to some extent, depending on which type of student loan you get, that if you pay this for so long, and it's an amount of time on many of them, you pay this for an amount of time and you make your payments on time, and then the rest of it will be forgiven. You won't owe any more past that. Well, the fact of the matter is that, if they're trying to change law on the fly, there's a way to change the law surrounding student loans or anything else. And that's for lawmakers to step up and do it. It doesn't need to be done administratively. And any law that's in place right now governing or rules governing student loans right now doesn't require the administration to do anything about it. That's just the way it happens. And so, this move here to make it seem, noble, you say, well, they paid their fair share. So you're changing the terms of the loan on the fly.
Well, and the other thing is, this isn't about helping the poor.
No.
The vast majority of this money goes to the elite.
Right.
It goes to people that come from families that are well off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Charles Cook points that out. He said, the president, what he's done here represents an extraordinary violation of the social compact. That's why this isn't money for the poor. It's a brazen cash grab for Joe Biden's friends. Mm-hmm. Biden likes college graduates in a way he doesn't like small business owners, plumbers, or servers. So he has decided to send the property of small business owners, plumbers, servers, and others and give it to college graduates. Mm-hmm. That's it. Yep. That's the whole game.
Yep.
There is no moral principle here. The debts owed by others remain untouched.
Yeah.
There's no reform here. The educational system remains exactly as it was before this started. The game is exactly how it looks. Peter, the general contractor, has been robbed to pay Paul, Ph.D. It's shameless class politics. And not in that dishonest boy made good from Scranton way that Joe Biden likes to pretend. Wow. Yeah. But that's where we are. It's just a giveaway. It's a giveaway to those that are much better off and will have much better lives.
Yeah, right.
I had took an Uber yesterday. Mm. Yeah, the car had to be in. They had a part that didn't come in for Evelyn, the old vehicle. So I'm picking up in the morning, but took an Uber home and great conversation. Great conversation with the driver just on everything. And we actually got to college and, the whole student loan thing came up in the discussion. And, we got into it and I told him, I took out one student loan for $1,000.
Yeah.
Now, remember, this is when $1,000 was actually money.
Yeah.
Remember, I'm not as young as I used to be. I might even be old.
There's a rumor.
I may be one of those people you look at and
I
go,
may have started that rumor, by the way.
Yeah, I may be one of those people you look at and go, oh, that poor guy.
Yeah.
Jeez, look what it is to get old.
Yeah,
Wow.
I didn't start that rumor, but the first one I did.
I can still remember when I got it. I told my dad, I said, well, I don't plan on using it because I was working constantly. Mm-hmm. So I was working anywhere between 55 and 60 hours a week and going to college full time. And as I've stated, there couldn't have been anything better than doing that for me. And why? Because it taught me time management. Mm-hmm. It really did. It was a huge... It didn't teach me what I thought it would, because I never was thinking this is really going to teach me about time management and really how to organize my time and really, really, really be efficient. Mm-hmm. And when in 2024, when I'm still working, even though I should be retired, I'm going to look back and say, thank goodness I had that time management experience back then, because now I can organize my day in my head very, very quickly and get it all done, live a life, doing a great radio show podcast, and it's going to be fun. It won't seem like it's hard. It's exactly what happened. Exactly what happened.
Yeah,
and so I look at it, and it's the same as, because we were talking about quiet quitting also. We got into the quiet quitting thing. And as I've stated many times, and we're both in agreement on this, I'd never quiet quit, ever. No, every single moment of my life is a learning experience. Once I make the deal and accept a job, whether I feel it's the fair price or not. Mm-hmm. And in my life, just like most people's lives, We probably believe we haven't been paid as much as we believe we are worth when we initially take the job.
Yeah.
But once I accept it, I could care less about the employer. I could care less about them. Now, I do care because of how I behave, but the fact is I don't think about them anymore. It's about what can I learn here? What can I do? How can I be productive? How can I be more productive? What can I get out of this? What do I learn? And how can it help me get the next job that's going to be better and pay more?
You know, to that end, I once had a job, and I had it for just a few days, and I called the owner after a few days, and I said, Sam, I can't help you here. It doesn't benefit me, doesn't benefit you. And you know what? We shouldn't get too far into this because I don't think I have to go any further to know that. And if I know that now, there's really no point in staying. So thanks for your time, and we'll see you down the road. And that was the way it played out because that's the way it works. If you go in and you say, all right, I'm going to be in it for me and what I can learn and what I can gain and what I can do, then that part of it also requires you to be productive, which benefits the employer in return.
Right. So I don't want to say that I didn't think of the boss part of it. When I said I wanted to be as efficient as possible,
and
it might have come out wrong
right.
how I said
not,
that. But.
Not in order to serve the employer. You're doing that so that you can grow and basically increase your value in the workplace.
Right. My focus when I took the job with that point, I need to serve this. It was I need to learn here. I need to be productive here, and that behavior and that mindset of how I can advance myself will naturally help the employer I'm working for.
Yeah, and it's the opposite of quiet quitting. And the attitude that I took after a few days, I knew I could have stayed and it was going to be a great paying job. I could have stayed and gotten paid. But to me, that doesn't feel right. Staying only for the pay, knowing you're not productive, it can only end badly in my mind. There's no way for it to end well.
I got a job one time, and this is when I worked at the steel plant as a machinist. And I got the job. This is United Steelworkers. But that was a union. But the place I got hired was McGraw Edison Worthington Group that used to be Worthington Compressors. They made compressors and everything for Navy ships. I got hired because my brother was a good machinist. Mm-hmm. And when I got laid off, they immediately came to me. My brother went to them and said, "Yeah, my brother's a machinist." They loved the legacy thing because they felt, and it's really true that that machining runs in a family. And if you're a good machinist, your brother's going to be a good machinist. And so they didn't immediately need me. I had nothing to do the first couple of months I was there. Mm-hmm. I would sit and sweep. Mm-hmm. And after I swept everything, I'd sit there and I remember going to my boss like probably 3 or 4 days in a row. I hadn't been there a week, saying, "Is there anything for me to do?" And he goes, "Look, we're going to find something for you soon, but just go hide and sleep somewhere." I hated that.
Yeah,
I hated not being, even with the permission and understanding, well, we're going to use it down the road. There's something in me that just couldn't take, that just couldn't, it bothered me taking money for not being productive at that moment. It went against everything that I believe.
Right.
Now, I stayed and they got me, and, within a week they had me doing things. But even that short period of time, I didn't like it. I just didn't.
Yeah.
And so when I hear the quiet quitting, I'm like, well, you're screwing yourself over. And that's the thing. That shows you that kind of mindset. Oh, good. I'm not really going to benefit that person at all, and I'm winning here. You're not winning.
Well, if you have this preconceived notion that the world owes you something, you're going to be disappointed every single time. The world is not going to deliver anything. Work will deliver that. Work brings that about.
Yeah.
You know, the old adage, the harder I work, the luckier I get, which is about showing up. You know, speaking of quiet quitting, it's, to me, this idea of working from home, there are lots of, and I have a few family members that are in jobs, not because of COVID, but for years, those roles were working from home. And they're very productive individuals. And you can only have those roles. It doesn't make sense for their companies to build huge centers or offices or office spaces specifically for those roles. They know that. Those are few exceptions. For me, the mindset is I want to show up. I want to be in front of, I want to be right there on site, but I also want to be productive and show my productivity along the way. I don't think you can demonstrate that from behind the scenes in your bedroom at home, working from home in many of those roles. You just don't get the job done.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
The IRS, the world's most aggressive collection agency. They can seize your property, bank account, and garnish your wages. They cause sleepless nights for millions of Americans. Don't be one of them. If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS or state, get protected today. Call 800-312-9970. Coast One Tax Group, protecting your bank, home, and your sleep since 2008. With hundreds of 5-star reviews and an A+ on the Better Business Bureau. Call Coast One Tax Group, 800-312-9970. Stanley from New York owed $93,000. The IRS placed a levy on his bank account. Coast One released the levy and settled with the IRS for $2,000. Mark in Michigan owed $225,000. After Coast One stepped in, Mark walked away paying less than $1,500. Call Coast One now. A 10-minute call can save you up to 93% on your back taxes. Get your fresh start today. That's 800-312-9970.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control of your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problem now by calling the experts at U.S. Tax Shield and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, so call now. 800-785-9132. That's 800-785-9132. U.S. Tax Shield. 800-785-9132.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the top of the hour, the new ruling in Alabama on in vitro fertilization, and that an embryo is a human being. And by the way, it gets us to the exact topic that you and I were talking about yesterday when you're looking at the polling, where a large plurality or a majority believe that there should be a 16-week limit, which means the majority of the public, the voting public, understands that or believes that sometime within the womb, it's a human being.
Right.
That's a huge thing for the pro-life movement that I don't think they fully recognize yet, because I have not heard anybody articulate that since the Dodd's decision. And I think this Alabama ruling is the same thing. People are trying to figure out when life begins.
Exactly.
And so now it's between when it's an embryo, when the two cells get together, or 16 weeks.
Right.
The majority believe it's somewhere in there.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. We are Red Eye Radio. Reading here from the Wall Street Journal, Eric. Canada's climate plan, nuclear power. Nuclear power has been the backbone of Ontario's clean electric grid for the past half-century. Starting in 1971, the Canadian province constructed 20 large heavy water reactors over the next 22 years. The rationale at the time was not combating climate change, but replacing expensive coal imported from the United States. Once Ontario started building these reactors, it stopped building the mammoth coal stations that once made up to 25% of Ontario's electrical grid, accidentally decarbonizing. And they talk about, Canada now wanting to build more nuclear plants. At the end of January, Ontario made the forward-thinking decision to refurbish its Pickering nuclear station, extending its operations by 30 to 40 years. This will ensure clean, dependable energy for a generation demanding real climate action from its leaders. The Pickering nuclear station produces more clean electricity than all of Canada's hydroelectric production in Niagara Falls. If you've ever been to Niagara Falls, you'll see the Robert Moses plant on one side, the one hydroelectric, the dam that comes down on one side, and Sir Adam Beck, which is the Canadian side, on the other side. They're monstrous. I mean, these things are huge. But the Pickering nuclear station in Ontario produces more clean electricity than all of Canada's hydroelectric production in Niagara Falls, and that is significant. Earlier plans to refurbish the station were rejected at the time when electricity demand was stagnant, and Ontario had plenty of idle natural gas-fired powered stations. But with population growth, electrification of steel production, and new large investments in the green industry, the provincial government sees that those reasons no longer apply, and the environmental reasons for refurbishing the nuclear plant are convincing. Nuclear energy has only 1% of the emissions of natural gas over its life cycle, according to a recent United States analysis. In recent decades, some climate scientists have advocated for nuclear energy's climate and health benefits. Globally, nuclear energy has prevented the emission of 64 gigatons of carbon dioxide, almost twice global emissions in 2022. And so they're just, just talking about how they still in Canada are looking forward, to nuclear energy. In the debate the other day, the California debate, every single Democrat running for Senate for Feinstein's seat, said they want to close the last nuclear plant there.
Yeah.
In California.
Right.
Now, Adam Schiff said, well, he believes in fission, but this needs to be closed down. I don't believe him.
You try and get the easy way out, right? Oh, right. We can get, but this one needs to be closed.
Right. And so they will have none. Remember, California's cost, 30 cents per kilowatt hour.
Wow.
That's the cost. Twice the national average for electricity.
Yeah. Right. Well, under their plan of cap and trade, electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket. And that's it. You can't have any efficient means under the guise of it's, in the case of nuke, it's dangerous. Or in the case of course, natural gas and oil, it's killing the planet. So what do? Well, you make it, in our opinion, in fact, in reality, you make it dangerously inefficient and unreliable and dangerously costly. Because ultimately, they would like to nationalize, the left would love to nationalize energy. They have been talking about it openly for years. And while they don't include it in the same conversation anymore, because it's too obvious, if they did that, what they're trying to do, what their goal actually is, it's still the underlying factor of all of this. And again, under the guise of this noble idea, we're saving the planet. The sky is falling, we're all doomed mentality. Now, we are all doomed, but we're doomed for different reasons, I believe, than the left believes. And this is where we are on energy. Look, if you're not going to, and you saw some, by the way, you saw the movement in recent years where with coal transitioning to coal companies transitioning to nuke and wanting to, again, create greater efficiencies along the way. The private sector knows how to do that. There are two things working against nuke, and that is the NIMBY effect, which stifles the political, part of it, and also the left doesn't want more efficiency, because if we're going to create a grid on reliable, cost-efficient energy, then my gosh, just imagine the wealth created as a result of that, because that will draw in manufacturers. We talked about this over the years. Manufacturers are looking for two things. They need humans, but they need low-cost, reliable energy.
And we can combine all these topics together, because I was reading an article yesterday, and this was on the whole thing of the Google Gemini and their search engine for human forms and human figures and I guess human depictions that apparently are based on diversity and not accuracy of history, which is a problem. But I was reading that it takes 5 times the amount of power to do a search on an AI app than it does a regular, than it does regular Google. And they're saying that, and that's why when you saw Kevin O'Leary yesterday talking about setting up different things and talked about the fact that for AI and to build the chips and everything else, you need massive amounts of electricity.
Oh, yeah.
And so you think about this, where they're going with all electric vehicles, which if you had to put them online today, where do you get the power from? Now, the Biden administration, after, they came out and said, when Biden came out with the most idiotic statement that we're going to be all solar and wind by 2035, they added nuclear to the mix, even though they don't promote it much.
Right. They did. I think they did it in order to bide some time. I think they really, that's what they were doing with that.
I agree with you on that. But Democrats don't want to build nuclear plants.
No.
And it's like since the last nuclear plant shut down in California in 2013, leaving only Diablo Canyon, which is the one that all three of them said they would close down. Apparently, it's going to at least remain open until 2030. It's supposed to be 2026, but they're like, where are we going to get electricity? In California, they're finally asking, where are we going to get electricity from? And the rates are going through the roof. But they said in 2016, state officials pressured Diablo Canyon's owner, the utility giant Pacific Gas and Electric, into an agreement to shut down the state's last nuclear plant in less than a decade. A year later, the California Public Utility Commission quietly removed the promise of, quote, reasonable rates, end of quote, from its mission statement. You have to. At nearly 30 cents per kilowatt hour, California's electricity rates are among the highest in the United States, eclipsing the national average last year by more than double. A sampling of posts in the San Francisco area on the neighborhood forum app Nextdoor shows residents pleading for help after receiving $175 electric bills for tiny one-bedroom apartments. Something is wrong, the post reads. I called PG&E, and they said, no, that's the normal price.
Right.
As blackouts mounted and electricity rates soared, Governor Gavin Newsom sought to reverse the shutdown of Diablo Canyon. In 2022, state lawmakers passed legislation postponing the closure until 2030. Even activists like Jane Fonda, who campaigned for years to end nuclear power, supported the extension.
Well, she doesn't earn as much money as she used to. So, which is an interesting point. You touched on the fact that they, as they spell out here, had to quietly remove the whole cost efficiency thing.
For reasonable cost for electricity.
Yeah.
That is the goal.
So think about this. That actually has been the case. For a number of years now, the left is no longer promoting that it's cost efficient. What they do is they set it up and imply it by saying wind and solar, making it seem like, well, the wind, the sun, that means it's going to generate and you won't have, what they'll say is your bills will be lower. Well, actually, when the grid is relying more on wind and solar, then it's less efficient. And in some cases, if you take the government money out of it, it gets as high as 45 cents per kilowatt hour. Actually, maybe higher now. That goes back a few years. And so they can't make the case of, it's going to be cheaper on the grid. And really, you've got enough people that have kind of bought into the technology that are getting burned to where now they can't talk about it being cheaper.
No,
it's
can't.
all about now, well, you can imply, and maybe if people think that, you just kind of let them run with that, but you're focused more on anything else will kill the planet, and we have until 2030 to get it right. Otherwise, we're all going to die.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to build a massive number of nuclear plants in the United States because of NIMBY.
No.
Right there, you're not going to.
And they know that. The left knows that.
We live in a natural gas state. The peninsula I live in on the lake, that's a hot spot, of natural gas.
Mm-hmm.
You got people building their homes. There's, natural gas tanks and everything right behind their homes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They don't mind that. That's
right.
okay. I mean, and then we know if there's an accident and a fire breaks out, there could be hell to pay. But still, it's like seems to be no concern from the people that live right near, these pumping stations and where they have some tanks and all this. And you're like, okay, but you can't build a nuclear plant.
Oh, no.
And that's the problem as you're pushing for solar and wind. But all these things have to be solved. There is no wishing that if we wish it, it will come true. You either have to make a decision to provide cheap, consistent energy to the public, or you don't.
It comes down to maybe scouting. Well, scouting back in the day. Remember the boxcar derby? Oh, it looks like a good car. Oh, you built a great car. But it comes down to the day of the race.
Well,
you got to perform.
There was the Pinewood Derby, and then the
small one, right?
The small one,
then the boxcar derby,
and then the boxcar. I don't think
which is the larger.
Yeah, that was. I remember my cousin always entered that one.
That was more of a community thing, not scouts so much.
It was more of a community. Yeah. I know this because I'm a 2-time Pinewood Derby winner.
Are you?
Yes.
I'm a 1-time winner, and then I realized this whole thing is a loser. I'm not doing this again. If I can't put metal weights in the front of the wood, If I can't fill the entire front end of that car with lead.
My father, we did. My
you?
father designed
Yeah.
it, and I had to build it. But we had lead inside of it, and it only rode on 3 wheels.
Okay.
Less
Yeah.
friction.
Right.
He did
Yeah.
everything.
Less rolling resistance.
And
There
my
you go.
father put together the second year. He put together a design.
And smaller wheels, not bigger, right?
I think there was a standard for the wheels.
Was there? I can't
Yeah.
remember.
But you know what my last one looked like?
Mhm.
It looked like an airplane wing. He
Okay.
designed it as an airplane wing running on 3 wheels and right at the limit. I think it was, I forgot what it was 5.
Now, we had a rule. You
5
couldn't,
ounces, 5.
You couldn't, I think you could add so much lead weight, but you couldn't, there could only be
No.
so much.
There was a weight limit.
Yeah.
It had to be we had to be at the weight limit.
Yeah.
But my father also said, okay, with the axles, he goes,
Okay.
you're going to run this thing on 3 wheels.
Yeah. Yeah.
He designed it.
Yeah. Right.
And it was like, thing looked like an airplane wing.
Mm-hmm.
Came in, people
Yeah.
looked at it and go, there's some of the kids, they just didn't even, they just had the basically block of wood with the wheels on it. They
Yeah.
didn't do anything.
Well, and I remember a scout leader walking past mine going, that looks like a real Shelby there. And I was like, oh, man, he loves it. And then I got home and realized, you know how you call people Einstein? Hey, way to go, Einstein. He was being sarcastic.
Oh, the other thing, we used the elastic glue to you had the nails in that were actually moving were in the elastic glue. They weren't like in, and so we actually had suspension on the wheels.
Oh, there you go. Also lowering your rolling resistance. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
did everything. So
Right. Yeah.
So I was a 2-time. Well, I would not have been a 2-time winner if Dad hadn't designed it.
Yeah.
I think he was actually more into it than I was. Seriously.
Quite often is the case. Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. In order to manage speed, you need to understand the 4 factors involved in stopping a vehicle. Perception distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time you see a hazard until your brain recognizes it. The perception time for an alert driver is approximately 3/4 of a second. Reaction distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time your brain tells your foot to move from the accelerator until your foot hits the brake pedal. The average driver has a reaction time of 3/4 of a second. Brake lag distance also needs to be taken into account. When operating a vehicle with air brakes, it takes about half a second for the mechanical operation to take place. Finally, braking distance is the distance it takes a vehicle to stop once the brakes are applied. Braking distance is affected by the weight, length, and speed of the vehicle, as well as road condition. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the bottom of the hour, James Biden testified this week. What does James Comer have to say about his testimony?
Mm-hmm.
We will get to that in a little bit. And also, Bobulinski, Tony Bobulinski, was a business partner with Hunter Biden, writes a nice note to Jamie Raskin.
Yeah. Yeah.
About it. Well, his lawyer did.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, Bobulinski's doing it right. You take a Democrat, you just don't, if they're going to make accusations, you don't generalize it back. We've said this a lot of times. You go point by point by point, and you destroy every argument that they have.
Right.
I don't know why Republicans don't do that.
No, but at least
don't know.
Bobulinski
But
and his
Bobulinski
attorneys
is. Yes.
seem to be doing it right.
Yeah.
about to trigger somebody right now. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley on Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Well, as we know, Jim Biden testified. They both have the same first name. Jim Biden testified in front of James Comer's House committee 2 days ago. What came out of it? This is from audio from, is it Newsmax or News Nation? It's one of the above. Newsmax.
Okay.
Here we go. Okay.
Chairman, good to have you. Day of. We're all waiting. You got Jim Biden in the seat. What did he tell you? And just tell us about his demeanor.
Well, of all the people that I've watched be interviewed, I can say with confidence he was the least believable of them all. To say that he's 75 years old and his brother's his best friend, and he's never once in his entire life discussed business with his brother, that's a little hard to believe. Another thing that Jim Biden said that was hard to believe, he said he had no idea CEFC had anything to do with China. I mean, no one would believe that. Isn't
the first C in the CEFC China?
Yeah, China. And, he said it was a privately owned company, but he didn't know who the owners were. And, we asked what exactly did both Jim and Hunter do to earn the millions of dollars that they earned from CEFC. And he said that they were always out scouting around trying to find them investments. And then the next obvious question, well, did you find them any investments? No.
Yeah.
So, there was no concern that, he took millions of dollars from the Chinese Communist Party, supposedly to help them find investments, but then they never found any investments. There was no concern that they would try to get their money back or anything else. Then we asked him about the loans he had from all these shady individuals, shady Ukrainian Americans, shady lawyers that have been disbarred and convicted of bribery, shady loans from, all these people that are in constant trouble that he's never paid back. And he said, well, it's my intention to pay him back. I mean, he's 75 years old. He's had some of these loans for 9 years. I mean, it was preposterous, some of the things that Jim Biden testified to in that transcribed interview.
Chairman, what about those checks that Jim wrote to Joe Biden? Did you ask him about that? What was his explanation for those? Yeah.
He said his brother loaned him money. And, we were like, well, can we see where Joe Biden actually provided a check or some form of payment to you? And he said, no, it was through this lawyer trust account.
So wait, hold on. So the guy, James Biden, who was taking $600,000 from America, taking millions from Chinese companies and Ukrainian companies, needs to borrow money from the guy who's never made more than $174,000 a year as a senator. He needed to borrow the senator's money and
$250,000.
How does that add up? And if it doesn't add up, how do you make that a smoking gun?
Well, obviously, there is no loan. There's a trust account in a law firm that created a lot of the shell companies that Hunter has. They did all the LLCs that Jim Biden had, and they did the president's LLC, Shamrock. So, this law firm has lots of different LLCs and corporate accounts. Did the money that came from the law firm, did it come from a corporate account? Did it come from Joe Biden? I mean, that shouldn't be hard to prove. But at the end of the day, one thing that is indisputable is the money that Jim paid Joe came from an influence peddling scheme. It came from AmeriCorps Health, which was a company he defrauded.
Yep.
That's in the bankruptcy documentation. That was in the Politico article. There's no question Jim Biden defrauded AmeriCorps Health, which defrauded a lot of people in Kentucky, in a little town called Pineville, Kentucky. And, at the end of the day, it's just amazing to see the lack of any type of shame by the president's brother or any type of concern from the Democrats asking the question.
Take a listen.
What I think is really interesting is you take the CFEC, and the money that they got from them, the millions, And it's what I found interesting was when, they asked him, Jim Biden, well, what service did you provide for the money? Oh, well, our job was to go out and get investments for them. Uh-huh. How many investments did you get? 0. Well, if that's the case, why is Hunter Biden, if they haven't performed theirs, because this is just what popped into my mind. Hunter Biden sitting next to his father. And this is China. They were talking to CFC.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, my father's sitting right next to me. We want the money because we did our part. Yet Jim Biden is making the claim they didn't do their part. Shouldn't it be the opposite?
Right.
Shouldn't the company be coming after them saying, look, we gave you this money based on this.
We paid you.
Yeah, we want this money back. And so you look at it and everything, how the media is looking at this and the family's attempting to promote it outside of CEFC now that apparently this was finding investments and they didn't find one investment for the company. And also on the influence peddling, we are supposed to believe that Hunter and Jim Biden took millions from all these other entities. And again, this is the liberal media that's promoting this.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the illusion of influence, which means they got millions of dollars and promised these companies we would do investments and we'll get our father to do stuff for you. And they never came through on anything, we are told to believe, yet the influence peddling and the investment scheme went on for decades.
Well, think about that. You produce absolutely nothing for them, and they kept giving you money. And they never once said, hey, you need to give us at least some of that money back. And then the job at hand, investments. You couldn't find one?
Not one.
Not one.
And that was the Chinese. That was the Chinese company,
right?
That he said Biden was sitting next to. That Joe Biden was sitting next to him when Hunter said that and said, "Basically, we did our part." Well, Jim Biden's saying they didn't do their part. Who's right?
Right. Because it gets down to the definition of our part.
Yeah, exactly.
Was the our part?
Right.
Was that investments or influence? Because I could tell you right now, and by the way, you don't have to pay me. And this is from what we know of investment by the Chinese in the U.S. What's the first thing they do if they want to park money in the U.S.? Real estate.
Mm-hmm.
California, New York.
Did you really need, did a company like that really need a Jim Biden
exactly
to figure out where to invest money in the United States?
Is there any shortage of Chinese investors in the United States?
No.
No, there's not. What do you need Jim Biden for? And then at the end of it, he still produced nothing, which means, and we can all see it, it wasn't about investing.
And they didn't get into this, but this would have been one of my questions for Comer when he's talking about the law firm that created the LLCs. All right, you have the paperwork for that. Who paid for that part of it?
Right.
You know, which part of the, where did the check come from? Who was paying the lawyers to, and that shouldn't be hard to find, right?
Right.
That should exist somewhere. Because all the loans, there is no proof of payment, nothing like that, no terms of a loan.
Yeah.
Well, no wonder. That's what's going on. Biden just, hey, loaning money means nothing. There should be no interest. So,
yeah.
By the way, I don't buy that.
No.
And so that's really getting interesting. Also, Bob Ulinsky's lawyer, hitting back at Jamie Raskin over their testimony. Raskin wrote a letter Tuesday to Bob Ulinsky and James Comer, blasting Bob Ulinsky for giving a chaotic interview where he repeatedly yelled, shouted, filibustered, and hurled outlandish and baseless accusations and insults against Democratic members and staff. Bob Ulinsky's lawyer alleged Raskin sent ABC News the letter before he had a chance to see it. He previously wrote to Raskin criticizing his statement released at the conclusion of Bob Ulinsky's testimony before a transcript of the closed-door session was publicly available. Comer and House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan released the transcript of Bob Ulinsky's testimony on February 16th, 3 days after he testified. Raskin and Representative Dan Goldman repeatedly insulted, interrupted, and disparaged Bob Ulinsky during the lengthy testimony the transcript shows. The lawyer's letter from Bob Ulinsky's lawyer cites excerpts of Bob Ulinsky's testimony and multiple WhatsApp text messages sent to Bob Ulinsky by Hunter Biden and other business associates surrounding the 2017 negotiations with the Chinese conglomerate CEFC over a proposed joint venture known as Sinohawk that eventually fell apart. With respect to your claim that Mr. Bob Ulinsky did not offer evidence of wrongdoing, he clearly testified to the authenticity of communications in which Hunter Biden's business partners introduced Mr. Bob Ulinsky to a potential business transaction between the Chinese and the Biden family, the lawyer said, to introduce the exhibits. Among the texts is a December 2015 message from businessman James Gillier to Bob Ulinsky, introducing the possibility of a deal involving a prominent American family, which Bob Ulinsky believed to be the Biden family. I'm telling you, the letter, he goes through point by point by point of any argument that Raskin made and blows it out of the water.
Yep.
Every single one. Here's the evidence here. You're not telling the truth. And that's the way you have to go. That's the way you have to fight the left. You cannot give them, and I believe the Republicans give them way too much leeway.
And
at
often
times.
get off on the wrong argument, too.
Yeah.
When it sounds like they're going to deliver a great response, they make the wrong argument. And it's like, okay, apply that same energy to breaking it down and making the correct argument against them. And you should be able to do that every time. By the way, it should be a natural response. It should be a natural response. Debating the left has never been easier.
No, we've said that we started out a few years back saying, wow, conservative principles have never been easier to defend and promote. And now it's the left. It's never been easier to debate. Ever. Because as you see, and you're seeing this word more often, that on the issues where they're taking the stand they're taking is insane.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Ooh, look at this one. Teamsters Union reports maximum donation of $45,000 to the Republican National Committee after meeting with Trump.
Yeah. How long has it been since they've made that kind of donation to Republicans?
At least 2004.
Bush's re-election?
That's what I'm reading here since 2004.
Mm-hmm.
So it's normally a very rare occurrence.
Yeah.
Oh, you see where Biden also said they're going to get tougher with the press?
Oh no, press.
What does that even mean? Is he going to yell more? How's Karine Jean-Pierre going to get tougher with the press?
She's going to really read from that book. Tough with the press.
The binder will be moving so quickly it will act like a fan and mess up the White House press corps' hair.
You know what we're going to do? We're just going to, you know what? We're just going to send the president home every weekend. You've been doing that since day one.
The weekends now start on Wednesday.
We're going to be calling lids a lot. Okay.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.